Okay. So Isaac Freeman, we were just wondering if he's on the list.
So I'm out here volunteering for Phil Noble. He is running to be our next governor. He's running to be our next governor. Phil is the best man for the job. He has been fighting on the right side of right since forever. He is a PK, a preacher's kid. He is a Southern boy. He was born in Alabama, raised down here in South Carolina, went to school in South Carolina and Alabama. And he has been fighting to get laptops in the hands of every child. So he's been fighting for our education here in South Carolina. He's been fighting for wages. He's been just fighting on the right side of right. So please take a look at Phil Noble and vote in June in the primary. So we'll have the right candidate come November.
So I have a very particular question for you to lay out your platform for mobilizing, energizing, and turning out African Americans and African American youth to vote for you in November. And I'm going to start with Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Dakar. My entire life of this service has been focused on making sure everyone had access to the ballot. And I tell you, from day one, and one of the reasons that I'm a very, very proud Democrat is because of the work we do to build support across the races of our state. And from the very beginning, I can tell you my support among the African American community is just encouraged my wife and I every day. We're talking about making sure that no matter where you live or where you come from, you have access to quality education. No matter where you are, where you come from, you have access to quality health care. Because it should no longer, and should it never be, two South Carolinas. No one person or no one place can be left behind. And when I'm governor, that will not be the case. I will make sure that everyone has an opportunity at a better slice of life than what their parents had. And everyone has an opportunity at a quality education and has access to health care. And I will make sure that when it comes to criminal justice reform, that we make sure that everyone is treated the same under the law. And I've worked very closely with my friends like Clemente Pinckney to make sure that after Walter Scott's death, we had body cameras that made sure that public and law enforcement were protected and everyone was treated fairly. And I will continue to do that, and I've been grateful for the support I've had in the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Next, we have Mr. Phillips.
Would you restate the question, Ron?
What is your plan and platform to mobilize, energize, and turn out African American voters and African American youth in November? In June and November.
Thank you very much. My plan is pretty simple. I'm going to meet with them and talk to them. I'm going to go to their homes and their churches, and I'm going to ask them, what's on your heart? What do you need? I'm going to be a friend and not just a governor. You know, getting out the vote is critical. We all know that. But people don't come out unless they want to elect you, unless they feel that you care about them. The PD has a lot of poor people. I know a lot of people who are suffering. There are counties in the PD that desperately need jobs. The Republicans tout how we have this great economy and everybody has got employment. It's not true. It's particularly not true in some parts of the PD and some of the African American communities. I've got to help those folks. I've got to help them find jobs. I've got to tell them, and they've got to trust me that I can bring economic development to places like Marion County, which isn't as geographically blessed as Charleston or Greenville. They've got to believe in me, and I've got to earn their trust. I'm going to do it door to door. I'm going to do it church to church. I'm going to ask the African American women to give me their trust because I know they trust me and they have in the past. I've shown that in my work every day, in philanthropy, in the churches that I attend and have attended in my year of spiritual journey throughout the churches in the PD. I'll talk about that later, but that's what I'm going to do.
Mr. Noble.
Reference Doug Jones as the model, and I think that's right. I think Doug was a non-traditional politician. He was an outsider, and he won because he was able to mobilize and energize people to vote in Alabama. Doug Jones has endorsed me in this race. Doug Jones is my friend. And Doug Jones endorsed me in this race because he knows what he knows. I know what he knows. We have to mobilize African Americans, not just on election day, not treat them like the votes we're going to buy or rent. We've got to fully bring black South Carolinians into government, into politics, into the mainstream of who we are and what we're doing. It's not a strategy about what are we going to do to get the black vote out. It's about how we're going to empower black people to be a full part of the citizenry of South Carolina, to develop the kind of life, hope, and future that we all want. That's why Doug Jones endorsed me. That's why we're going to win in South Carolina.
I'm going to remind everyone that you don't have to use your rebuttal time. I can get you more questions, but if you have a rebuttal, please go for it. Mr. Smith.
Sir, I'll add to my answer. You know, it has been one of the most enjoyable and most spirit-filled and joyful experience that I've had in this campaign. Is traveling to African American churches around. I've been to over 20 already, and I've seen the kind of support and encouragement that I get with every visit. And I'm very grateful for the support of pastors like Charles Jackson and Pastor Holt and Charles and many others who see the way forward, who are ready for change in South Carolina. And I'm ready to deliver that change.
I've done it and quit and done it and quit and done it and quit. Keep coming back.
I think it's insulting to say that African Americans are not the mainstream of the state. I think that is insulting. Yes, we have work to do. We all have work to
Fucking
do.
meaningful job.
And I spent a year going from African American
Isn't that
church
right?
to African American church on spiritual journey 5 years ago. And I can
People
tell
in
you,
general,
the
because
folks there is much
everybody in
change
generations go up.
And I just disagree.
The economy, built off people spending more money. That's when they get more money. My minimum wage is $12 when I hire people. I'm an attorney.
Well, the reality is,
And I got one girl right now who's white. Well, she's
about 40% of
actually mixed, like everybody.
African Americans are in higher education.
She's gotten
Radically
dollars
lower rate.
first 6 months, 50 cents raise,
If
second.
you believe that
3 months.
African Americans fully
And
invested
she ain't improving
South
anymore, so I don't know that I'm gonna give her
full
more.
citizens,
She's a
equal
performance.
opportunity,
Yeah,
equal rights,
13.5 right now.
equal benefits
I'm not seeing
as
a
the
lot
rest
of
of us.
improvement.
Fine.
Like, starting people.
I do believe they have
Thank
equal rights.
You
you
don't,
so much.
unless you're digging ditches, you're not gonna get, she has a degree.
So, we're going to switch topics slightly,
I took a
and
chance on her because she's got great
regarding the
intelligence.
opioid epidemic, do you feel that Henry McMaster
And
is
she's
handling it
friends with the
appropriately?
daughter of
Do
one
you
of
think
my
this
officers.
resolution is fair to chronic pain patients and other patients with chronic or terminal illnesses? This question is for everyone.
Had that.
And just kind of piggybacking on this, I want to remind our candidates that
I mean,
they already know that the opioid epidemic is
I got
not
2
just
officers
ravaging
aching and
white
boning.
communities throughout our country. It's ravaging us.
That's how you get in touch with me. That's yours.
Mrs. Willis, you begin.
Have a good day.
That was a yes or no question, so let me do my job a little bit better. How would you improve on the low bar that Henry McMaster has set in curtailing our opioid epidemic we have in South Carolina? That's a good lawyer, his answer. That was that next.
Well, we all like to expound. First, we get rid of Henry McMaster. And I don't normally say this, but any one of us will do in that regard. We just got to because we all know that Henry McMaster is a political animal who got to be governor because he did a favor for Donald Trump, and Donald Trump made Nikki Haley the UN ambassador so Henry McMaster could have his life go to be governor. Thank you. He's had it. Move on. This is a serious and complicated crisis. It involves a lot of different issues, and they haven't gotten the right treatment in this state. It involves not just opioid use and the availability of opioids. It involves treatment for people who have underlying serious conditions. Many of those are mental illnesses. Many of those are chronic pain. And we've got to deal with all of these issues in order to do right by these people and stop this condition. It won't be easy, but we've done other things that weren't easy. But we've got to do it right. And Henry McMaster is not the person to lead us in that direction.
Well, I think it's a perfect example of the sort of Trump master view of politics. Donald Trump had a task force on the opioid crisis, and he put Chris Christie in charge of it. Well, when the committee reported, Christie didn't even bother to show up, and McMaster,
Why do we
and Trump
always
left
go
the meeting
immediately
10
to
minutes
abortion
later.
and
I mean, that's
and the real issue is how do we make
the
people
Trump
alive?
McMaster view of politics. It's about photo ops,
It's
it's
a
about blue ribbon commissions, and it's about an absolute lack of results. And that's pretty much endemic for the way politics has been run in the state. And I think the opioid crisis is obviously a crisis. Everybody knows it. But the basic patterns that we see of succeeding in other states, we need to do. It's things like registries, it's about better patient care, it's about treating this not as an addiction in the sense of patients who are paying for it, but it's a health issue that we have to deal with. We can do what other states have done that have been more effective than us. It's not about making this up on our own. We can find what works in other places and bring it.
Fighting for.
Thank you so much, Mr. Smith.
Okay, so what is gerrymandering?
Gerrymandering is the process whereby one party or another takes certain areas of the district and carves it up. So it's like imagining a pie. Instead of cutting the usual slices, the 8 slices that we normally would, that would be redistricting, pretty standard. With a little bit of deviation, right? Oh gosh, if this is all Republican, then let's make sure we have an all Democratic district. What gerrymandering does is it says, oh dear, if we have 8 pieces of the pie in South Carolina, then 6 of those pieces are going to be Republican, and the other 2 are going to be, or 6 are going to be Democrat, and the other 2 are going to be Republican. In our case, it would probably be more like 5 would be Democrat and 3 would be Republican. So what they do is they say, well, wait, hold on a minute. I know what I'll do is let's carve a circle out of the middle of the pie. That way they take a little bit out of each one, and that way they can make sure there's more Republicans. So maybe they'll have half the circle in all those just Republican districts, and they'll just take a little teeny tiny bit out of the Democrat one. And then they'll do that. They'll carve them up, and wherever they see the other party. Now that's what we call party gerrymandering, according to party. And so far, the Supreme Court has said that that is legal. What is not legal is gerrymandering according to race. So, those are black people, we're going to keep them out. Now, right now we have several cases before the Supreme Court where people are fighting to say, look, in many cases it's one and the same. If you're taking out Democrats, you're often excluding black people. And they're also saying it should not be just party gerrymandering. It should be fair, and districts should be chosen fairly so that the people can elect who they want to elect and not make it almost impossible to get someone elected no matter how many Democrats show up. If you look at the number of Democrats that show up in South Carolina to vote and you look at the number of Republicans overall, you're going to see a lot more, in many cases, Democrats than Republicans. Just like Hillary Clinton won the popular election, but she didn't win the Electoral College. So it's kind of similar to that.
Okay. So, what are you doing to get the word out to the black vote? Because there's not that many people here. I would think that when somebody's about to run for these seats, it'll create a bigger crowd. But they're using Al Sharpton to come in tomorrow, when this is more important to be here today than to be here tomorrow.
You're right, absolutely it is. And well, one of the things that I think that has been maybe the only good thing about Donald Trump has been that he's getting people out into the streets. I started a group called Indivisible South Carolina, which is a grassroots group dedicated to resisting the Trump agenda. And I had never been involved in politics before except for voting. And I became very involved because I became very concerned. As an attorney, as someone who understands the Constitution, who fights for civil rights for plaintiffs, people who have been discriminated against under the Civil Rights Act, we call it Title VII, I was extremely concerned about what I was seeing, the civil rights violation, namely what happened with the Muslim ban. The Muslim ban concerned me deeply. Betsy DeVos was the tipping point for me. In January, I said, no way. I began creating this, I created this group called Indivisible South Carolina as part of a national group, and we began having protests, we began having rallies, we grew, we began getting information out, and that's been the great thing about Trump's election. It has gotten people who have not been involved in the political process, like me, involved, and hundreds and hundreds of women.
So where can we find out more information about Indivisible South Carolina?
Indivisible South Carolina is on Facebook, and so all you have to do is look up Indivisible South Carolina. There are also Indivisible chapters throughout the state. So there's an Indivisible Midlands, Indivisible Aiken, Indivisible Beaufort, Charleston, Indivisible, I think they call it SC3, which is the up in the area for Jeff Duncan, Seneca, Clemson area. Then there's Indivisible SC4, which is Greenville, Spartanburg, and quite a few others. We have 25 groups. And if you're interested in my campaign, if you happen to be in District 2, and you're not a fan of Joe Wilson, who shouted at President Obama, then go to www.annabelle2018. There's my logo.
Woo! Love the over-the-shoulder shot.
There you go.
Thank you. I think we are in District 2.
We are District 2, yes we are.
Like we live in District Blackwood, that's District 2, right?
Blythewood is indeed District 2, and
So-
Blythewood is the northeast, and we've had a huge influx of African Americans there, and that's going to be an area that we're going to be canvassing, and I need everybody to get out the vote. If you're interested in coming and participating in getting Democrats to vote up in Blythewood, the northeast, or any of our areas here in Columbia, please join my campaign. Just send an email to the campaign, go there, there'll be a sign-up sheet, and we'll love to have you get involved. We're going to be knocking on doors. 2018 is an important year. In my experience, rich
Powerful
white
year.
men do not go to jail. That's just my experience. Maybe somebody's had a different experience, but rich white men typically do not go to jail. I don't anticipate Donald Trump being impeached even. It would take not only every single Democrat vote if we take back the House, but it would also take 10 more Republican votes, and I don't see that happening. What I do see is us taking back the House and taking back the Senate and controlling Donald Trump through the legislature, which is called Congress. Checks and balances, that's what our country is made on, and that's what needs to happen again. So let's take back the House, let's take back the Senate, and let's start right here with Joe Wilson, repealing and replacing him, because that's the only thing that needs to be repealed.
Peel and replace.
Repealing and replacing.
Hoorah.